Hello all and welcome to Horologique. Welcome today to a review of a beast from the depth. This is the Steeldive 1969, and as you can see it comes in a regular, now classic Steeldive package, which is shared with other companies such as Saint Martin and Chronos. But okay, let's go to the watch itself. And here it is. As you can see, you get a card, which is not signed. Warranty card. I believe it's 2 years with them. But let's leave that aside and focus on the watch. And I can already feel that it's a heavy, heavy thing. And here is the beast. This is the Steeldive SD1969, and as it's obvious, it's a homage to the Omega Ploprof or plongeur professionnel. And of course, if after the review you're interested in this big, original, chunky monster, I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below, and it's from the official Steeldive store on AliExpress. And the first thing that strikes you when you unbox this watch is the heft of the thing. It is very, very heavy. We'll be weighing it and measuring it later. But very first impressions, it does look, of course, like a big, massive thing, as it's supposed to be. This is a tool, first of all, or was supposed to be a tool, first of all. And then you look and you see that you've got quite a lot of facets, quite a lot of brushing and polishing surfaces that make it a bit more refined. This is more a homage to the newer references of the Ploprof from Omega than to the vintage monoblock monster of the 1960s and 70s. But okay, let's go first with the dimensions. And when measuring from the extreme salient part of the case to the end of the crown, you've got a whopping 56 millimeters. In height, it's a 15.6 millimeters, but the log-to-log is just a 47.8. We cannot properly talk about a log width here, but the bracelet on its thickest point next to the case is a little under 22 millimeters, and the rubber strap does not taper at all. And the weight is 169 grams on the rubber strap, which makes it a heavy, heavy thing. I don't even want to think how much it weighs on a bracelet. So let's check the dial. And the dial is very consistent with the modern iteration, the modern Omega iteration, but instead of course, the Omega name and logo, you've got the Steeldive name and logo at 12, and at the bottom of the dial, you've got an automatic and 1200 meters or 4000 feet of depth rating. And I am not sure if Steeldive tests them to actually these depths, or if it is written like that just to be consistent with the Omega Ploprof. I have asked them, but they have not really replied. And you see that you also have a date window at a little bit over 4, and you can see that it's the 7th of October. Alright, and you can see that the hands are here as well, consistent with what you get with the Ploprof. However, I have noticed that the orange minute hand is a bit thicker. It is a sword hand, and this one looks much broader. Orange is a recurrent theme of this watch. You've got the orange at the tip, you've got the depth rating that is in orange, you've got the hands that is in orange, and of course you've got the pusher, which is in orange as well. This model has a very, very thick sapphire crystal, which allows it to be very much water resistant. I don't know if it resists to actually 1200 meters, but I am certain that you can dive with it to great depths, no problem. And now let's talk about the bezel insert. The bezel insert here is a luminous ceramic bezel insert. In fact, let's do lume right now. The lume is good and not good at the same time. That bezel insert is really well lumed, but quite sadly, the hands and especially the markers are not lumed as they should be. Let's hope that in the next iteration, Steeldive take this into account and put us some wonderful lume in the dial and on the hands as well. Let's talk case, and the case is by far the most interesting part of this watch. Contrary to other watches, the width of the case is much larger than the height, which gives it a very elongated aspect. Let's first talk about that big button in there. And in the original Ploprof from the 60s, this button was plastic, but in the Omega Ploprof from 2009, I think, they changed it to a metallic orange, and that's what Steeldive have replicated here. But the principle is that you need to push that button to be able to move the bezel. The idea being that when you're underwater, you really do not want the bezel to be moved in any way by a knock or by something else. So let's see if it works. Yes, it works wonderfully, and it's, as you can see, bi-directional. And here's my first complaint. This bezel insert is a bit wobbly. As you can see, it could be better, especially for the price of this watch. Then let's talk about that crown with that shroud. As you can see, we cannot really talk about crown guards. We can talk about a whole crown protection system. I was pretty surprised on how you open this. There's no locking or something like that of this piece here. You just unscrew it normally, and gradually this piece that is here will relax and let the crown spin freely. But this allows the crown to be pretty much fully protected when you're underwater. And as you can see, you can move freely. The movement here is, of course, you know about that, the NH35 from Seiko. So you have hand winding, you have hacking, of course, and you've got a pretty good accuracy out of the box. The crown is attached to this piece of metal. As you can see, it's wobbly there, but when you finish screwing the crown completely, it becomes fully solidary with the rest of the case. The case back on the original model from the 60s and 70s was monoblock to help with that water resistance, but this one is not. It's a screw down, and you can see the logo from Steeldive, and you can see all the information here, the NH35 automatic movement, and that you've got 1,200 meters of water resistance. Last of all, let's talk about the strap. And it's a pretty good strap. It's a pretty good rubber strap with a double holder. They all move freely along the strap, and they are both branded Steeldive. And at the end, in the end of the bottom part, you've got again the Steeldive logo embossed there. The buckle is pretty chunky, as you might have guessed, and it is branded Steeldive. And here's how it looks on my 6.5 inch, 16.5 centimeter wrist. A massive thing, but as I was telling you, it's more massive horizontally than vertically, which means that 48 millimeters in length means that it does not overhang from your wrist, making it strangely wearable, even for medium to small wrists. Of course, you will not go unnoticed if you're wearing this big chunk of metal on your wrist. But this, remember guys, this is a tool for a purpose. At the time in the 60s, it was a tool just for divers. Ploprof, the name says, just for professional divers. Aesthetics was not the aim of this watch, it was function above form. And you can really see that. This is what makes me say that this watch is just for the absolute watch nerd. Steeldive priced these at around 330 euros at today's rate, and that is pretty expensive for such a watch. But when you see all the work that's been done here, all the new production things they had to engineer for it, the big chunky case, the pushing, the locking mechanism, and the specially made crown, they could not just pick processes, machines and parts from other watches. They had to build it all from scratch. They had to build it all from scratch just to make this watch. So I commend Steeldive for that. Of course, there's many things that they could have done better and which they could easily make better, like the lume on that dial, maybe tighten that rotating bezel a bit more. But all in all, it is a worthy try from what I can see from my first impressions. But I will get to wear this watch a bit more. I will not wear it to the office. That would feel really weird. Alright, so thank you very much guys for having watched the unboxing of this thing, and stick around for the full review. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you very soon.